They say time heals all wounds. Whoever said that never came back from the dead. I stood there, boots heavy with desert dust, staring at the front porch of the house I used to call home. 3 years. That's how long they thought I was gone. Dead, buried somewhere beneath a flag and a folded triangle of patriotism. 3 years, and not a single soul had the decency to question it. I didn't even recognize the place at first. The siding had been repainted. New mailbox. Lawn was kept, but not with care, just enough to satisfy neighbors and keep the HOA quiet. The door was the same, though. Still had that chip on the bottom left corner from the time my boy, Eli, tripped while riding his scooter, and I patched it up half-heartedly with wood filler and too much coffee in my system. That chip damn near broke me now. I didn't knock. Couldn't. My hands trembled. Could have blamed it on the cold, but we both know it wasn't that. The door creaked open. No warm welcome. No gasp. No tears of joy. Just my son, Eli. 7 when I left, 10 now. Thinner. Older in the eyes. He froze when he saw me, like his brain short-circuited trying to make sense of it. And then the tears hit. Sudden, violent, real. Dad? His voice cracked like dry wood under pressure. Yeah, buddy, I said, crouching low so he could see I wasn't a dream. I'm home. He ran into my arms, sobbing so hard I could feel it in my bones. Not like a kid reunited with a hero. No, like a kid crawling out of a nightmare. His little fists clenched my shirt, his body shaking. I should have felt relief. But what he said next shattered me in a way no bullet ever could. They told me you were dead, he whimpered. And they beat me every night. I froze. What? They said you were never coming back. Mom said I had to be strong. But her new husband, he said crying's for cowards. Every time I asked about you, he got mad. I couldn't breathe. My own damn heartbeat was a drumbeat of fury. I looked up, into the house. And there she was. Claire. My wife. Well, ex-wife. In spirit if not yet by law. She stood halfway down the hallway in a satin robe, holding a cup of tea like she hadn't just been exposed as the witch behind the curtain. Her eyes widened, but not from joy. Not even guilt. No, it was panic. Fear. Like she'd just seen a ghost with a gun. And in a way she had. You're supposed to be, she started. Dead. I said. My voice didn't shake. She clutched the wall for balance. I took a slow step forward, my hand still on Eli's back, grounding him. Where is he? I asked. Who? She lied. The man who put hands on my boy. Silence. Where is he, Claire? A creak upstairs. I looked up. That's when I knew. This wasn't going to be a reunion. This was going to be a reckoning. And it wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming what was mine, starting with my son. That creak from the second floor might as well have been a battle cry. I felt my spine straighten, instincts sharpening like I was back on patrol, clearing a hostile compound. Only this time, the war had come home. Eli gripped my arm tighter, like he knew the storm wasn't over. I gently peeled his hand off me. Go wait in the truck, I said. But, now, lock the doors. Put on your favorite song, remember? The one we used to sing on the way to the lake. His eyes welled up again, but he nodded. Brave little soldier. He bolted past Claire, whose lips parted as if she might protest, but she didn't. Maybe because she saw the look in my eyes. Maybe because she knew I was already past the point of pretending this was salvageable. I stepped inside. The air reeked of lavender candles and lies. Claire backed up, holding that stupid mug like a shield. She was trying to keep it together, chin high, robes cinched tight, acting like this was some normal misunderstanding. I'd seen terrorists lie more convincingly. You faked my death, I said quiet. Controlled. Collected the military payout. Moved in another man. Told my son I was gone. It wasn't like that, she said quickly, voice brittle. Really? Then how was it? She opened her mouth, but footsteps on the stairs saved her from answering. Slow. Heavy. Unhurried. Like he thought he had the right to descend from my bedroom with my air in his lungs. Then I saw him. Jason Connolly. Local contractor. Town sweetheart. The kind of guy who pretends to be humble, but parks his lifted truck sideways like he owns every lot. I remembered him from church picnics and school fundraisers. Claire used to say he was harmless. Right. He didn't look surprised to see me. Look who's back, he said, stepping off the last stair, shirtless, smug. Thought they flew your pieces home in a box. I guess you're disappointed, I replied. He grinned, slow and oily. You're a ghost, man. Walk away. Don't make this harder than it has to be. You laid hands on my son. His smirk faltered, just a flicker, but I caught it. He lied. You know how kids are. I took another step closer. He said you beat him. Claire tried to interject. We didn't. Jason he was disciplining him. You were gone. We thought. You thought you'd cash in on my coffin. Jason stepped forward like he was going to square up. Mistake. Hey, if you want to talk, we can talk like men. But I'm not letting you come in here and act like you still run this place. I don't need to act, I said. I do run this place. You're just squatting in the ruins. My fist didn't clench. My jaw didn't twitch. That's how he knew I wasn't bluffing. A man who doesn't need to puff up or posture is a man with nothing left to lose. You should go, I said. Tonight. He laughed. Claire didn't. She turned to him, finally realizing what I had known since I walked in. Jason wasn't going to protect her from me. He didn't have the guts. He'd play the tough guy, but when push came to consequence, he'd fold like wet cardboard. He didn't even try to fight. Just grabbed his keys and stormed out, muttering curses and threats that no one cared about. Claire followed him to the porch, trying to save face, calling after him like he was the victim. When she came back in, the tears had finally come. Guilt? Maybe, but more likely fear. You weren't supposed to come back, she whispered. I did. She sank into a chair, robe loose now, her shoulders suddenly slumped, exposed. Everything fell apart, she said. After they said you were missing. Months without contact. They said no one survived that convoy. The army gave me the death letter and you cashed it like a lotto ticket, I snapped. She flinched. I had nothing. No family. No job. I didn't know how to raise a kid alone. So you handed him over to a drunk bully and called it parenting? Her lip trembled. It wasn't like that. Yes, Claire. It was exactly like that. I turned away. Couldn't look at her anymore without seeing the 1,000 ways she sold out our vows. Our family. My son. I'm filing for full custody, I said. Tomorrow. You can't. I whirled around. I can. I will. And when the court sees the bruises, the medical records, the video footage I'll collect from the school, neighbors, anybody who ever heard Eli scream, I'll have a judge signing over rights before you can finish your next lie. Her face went pale. Eli stays with me, I finished. And I'll make sure you and Jason have plenty of time to figure out how to split a benefit check that was never yours to begin with. Then I left. Got back in the truck. Eli looked up at me, eyes wide. Dad, we're going home, kiddo, I said. The real one. I woke the next morning in a motel off the interstate. Not the Ritz, but it had two things I needed: privacy and a lock on the door. Eli slept beside me on the other bed, curled up in a way no 10-year-old should have to. Not because he was cold. Not because he was tired. Because trauma clings to kids like static. I'd barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Jason's smirk and Claire's eyes, wide with guilt. And behind all that, Eli, alone in his room while a stranger played husband to his mother and tyrant to his childhood. They thought I was dead. Claire hadn't even tried to contact the army when they told her I was missing. No DNA test. No dog tag retrieval. Just a name on a list and a check in the mail. A check she cashed like it was her birthday. I didn't blame the military. Communications go dark all the time in active zones. My unit got hit hard in Syria. For dead. I was lucky. Well, lucky's not the word. The Humvee I was in rolled off a ravine after an IED. When I came to, I was under enough debris to convince the cleanup crew nobody walked away. But I did. It took months before I got processed through the right channels, and by the time they traced my identity and updated the records, Claire had already collected my benefits, moved Jason in, and built a new life on the grave she lit the match for. And here's the kicker. No one tried to contact my father. Not my siblings. No next of kin follow-up. Just Claire. The sole beneficiary of my death. Funny how that worked out. Eli stirred. You okay? I asked. He nodded, still wrapped up in the motel's scratchy blanket. Are we really leaving? Not leaving, I said. Starting over. He sat up, rubbed his eyes. What about school? We'll take care of it. Is Mom in trouble? I paused. She will be. He swallowed. Will I have to go back? I looked him dead in the eye. Never. That afternoon, I walked into the county courthouse like a man fresh out of the casket and filed for emergency custody. The clerk looked at the paperwork, then at me. This says you're deceased. Not anymore. The woman blinked like she was seeing the second coming. I handed over my army-issued clearance letter, signed, stamped, official. She scanned it. Twice. You're filing for emergency custody against Claire Walker? She asked. That's right. You're her husband. I gave a cold smile. Apparently, that didn't stop her from declaring me dead and moving in a felon. Felon? Jason Connolly. Battery arrest back in 2015. Pleaded down. Community service. Not exactly Mr. Rogers. She went silent. Typed. Printed. Handed me a date. Your emergency hearing is Friday morning. Judge Hargrove. You'll need proof. I have it. And more's coming. Next stop, DCS. I laid it all out for the social worker. Eli's bruises. The nightmares. The teachers who'd commented on his withdrawn behavior. And yeah, video evidence. Turns out, Jason liked to leave the blinds open. One of the neighbors had already tipped off child services 6 months ago, but Claire must have sweet-talked her way out of a visit. It was easy to overlook a cry for help when you're wearing mascara and a Sunday dress. This time, they'd listen. I wasn't dead anymore. That night, back at the motel, Eli sat beside me and colored while I combed through receipts, bank statements, insurance letters, anything that showed Claire hadn't just moved on, but cashed in. My phone buzzed. It was from a blocked number. One message. You're going to regret this. Leave now before it gets ugly. Jason. Of course. I showed the message to the officer at the front desk of the local PD. Can you prove it's him? The cop asked. Not yet, I said. But I will. He nodded slowly. You want to file a report? No. I want him to feel safe for just a little while longer. Friday morning came fast. I stood outside the county courthouse in a borrowed suit, my army boots still on because I wasn't going to wear dress shoes just to play pretend. Eli waited with a DCS-appointed advocate in a nearby room. I told him I'd be right back. What I didn't say was that this courtroom might be the only place anyone would finally believe him. The hallway was too quiet, sterile, like a hospital with none of the mercy. I could hear heels clicking down the corridor long before I saw her. Claire. Hair curled. Blouse perfect. Face painted in soft regret. And trailing right behind her? Jason. Wearing a blazer that didn't quite hide the aggression boiling under the surface. His lip curled when he saw me, but he didn't speak. He didn't have to. She was here to put on a show, and he was her security blanket. We entered the courtroom at the same time. Judge Hargrove, a tired-looking man with a sharp eye, glanced over the case file. Then he looked at me. Mr. Walker, he said, clearing his throat. It's not every day we see a man rise from the dead. Wasn't my idea, Your Honor. He nodded slowly. Your petition claims child abuse, fraudulent death certification, and wrongful use of military benefits. That's quite a list. Yes, sir. Claire's attorney, slick hair, expensive tie, not a single speck of dust on him, rose smoothly. Your Honor, my client was told her husband was killed in action. She filed all necessary paperwork under military guidance. This, he gestured to me like I was a malfunctioning appliance, was presumed dead for over 18 months. She had every right to move on. Move on. I interrupted. To a man with a battery charge and a drinking habit, living under the same roof as my son? The judge held up a hand. Let's proceed one step at a time. Claire spoke next. God, she was good. She teared up right on cue. Told the judge how hard it was to grieve. How she tried her best to be both mother and father. How Jason helped support them financially when things got hard. And your son? Judge Hargrove asked. Has he ever mentioned being harmed? She hesitated. Not to me. But he's been struggling emotionally. Acting out. He lies sometimes. Tells stories. It's heartbreaking. Lies. She just called a 10-year-old boy's bruises and nightmares stories. I stayed calm. I had to. My son's school counselor documented signs of trauma and fear-based withdrawal over 6 months, I said. I've submitted those records. And I have medical photos taken by the ER 2 weeks ago. Split lip. Bruised ribs. Jason here said he fell down the stairs. Jason shifted in his seat. I also have a text message threatening me, sent from a blocked number minutes after I filed for custody. Can you prove who sent it? The judge asked. Not yet. But I've requested phone records. The judge took a long breath. Then he looked at Claire. And the death benefits, Mrs. Walker? Here it came. The part she didn't rehearse for. She stammered. I used them to support Eli. To keep the house. It wasn't personal. Yet the account was emptied within 3 months, I said. New car. Luxury purchases. Vacation receipts. Meanwhile, Eli wore the same shoes for a year. She blinked hard. Jason looked like he wanted to throttle someone. Then Claire made her biggest mistake. I want supervised visitation for Mr. Walker, she said suddenly. He's emotionally unstable. Shows signs of PTSD. He hasn't been in Eli's life for 3 years. And frankly, I'm worried. The judge's eyebrows arched. Is there evidence to support that? She opened her mouth, but I was already ahead of her. Actually, Your Honor, I said, sliding a folder to the bailiff. Here's the record of my mandatory psych eval from the VA. Certified fit, no symptoms of combat-related trauma. I've also included my honorable discharge papers and medical clearance. He skimmed it. Certified 3 weeks ago. I knew she'd try to weaponize the only war I ever fought for her. Silence. For the first time that morning, Claire looked uncertain. The judge leaned forward. I'm granting temporary full custody to Mr. Walker pending a full investigation by Child Protective Services. The child will remain in his care. Mrs. Walker, visitation rights are suspended until further review. Jason slammed a fist on the bench. The judge didn't even blink. Mr. Connolly, if you have an outburst in my courtroom again, you'll spend the weekend in a holding cell. Claire didn't cry this time. She just sat there, staring at nothing, her world collapsing without an explosion, only quiet ruin. As I left the courtroom, Eli was waiting with his little backpack, already zipped and ready. Well? He asked. We're going home, I said again. He smiled. For real this time. The thing about abusers, they don't go quiet when they lose. They get louder. Sloppier. Dumber. Jason was no exception. It didn't take long. Less than 48 hours after the hearing, I came out of the grocery store with a bag of basics, eggs, bread, peanut butter, a candy bar for Eli, and found a key scraped down the side of my truck. Deep. Deliberate. Coward's signature. I looked around. No sign of him. But I knew. I didn't report it. No point. Not yet. Jason was going to hang himself. It was just a matter of giving him the rope. Back at the motel, Eli was watching cartoons, legs swinging off the bed like nothing had ever gone wrong. For the first time in months, maybe years, the tension in his shoulders was gone. No bruises. No yelling. I wasn't about to let that piece get ripped away. So I made a call. Mike Delaney. Old Army buddy. Now a private investigator in Indianapolis who owed me more than one favor. You still do dirt on short notice? I asked. For you? Always. Who we digging up? Jason Connolly. He whistled. Thought that name sounded familiar. Guy applied to be a subcontractor on a city housing project last year. Got flagged in the vetting process. Didn't get cleared. Why? Too many red flags. Domestic calls. Protective order in 18. Something about a coworker's daughter and a sketchy late-night visit. You want all of it? I want everything you can find that doesn't require a warrant. Give me 2 days. It didn't take 2 days. Mike called me the next evening. Your boy Jason's got a trail so long. I needed a second cup of coffee just to finish the first half. Send it. He did. 3 pages. PDFs, official court records. 1 arrest, 2 restraining orders, and a civil case quietly dropped after a payout. The cherry on top? A text chain from a burner phone recovered in a small claims case involving his ex, in which Jason bragged about taking care of the brat that's not even mine, and teaching the kid to shut up. Guess who the brat was? I forwarded everything to my attorney and the DCS agent assigned to our case. Then I printed it all and slid it into a plain envelope. Claire didn't answer the door when I knocked, so I left it under the mat. No note. No message. Just the truth, wrapped in silence. Let her read that while Jason tried to convince her this was still salvageable. The next night, Jason made his last move. I was walking to the truck when I saw him across the lot, half-drunk, hoodie up, cigarette clenched between his teeth like he was still 25 and bulletproof. You think you've won? He slurred. I didn't answer. He stepped closer. She was mine. You were a ghost. Dead. She moved on. You think you're some kind of hero, coming back with your shiny paperwork and your fake tears. I didn't say a word. I just opened the door and sat in the driver's seat. Calm. Focused. Because every word he spewed only dug him deeper. I hit record on my dash cam the second he started talking. You don't get it, do you? He said. You think you're taking him from her? She wants me. Not you. That kid, he was asking for it. Always crying, always whining. I gave him discipline. There it was. I let him talk. Let him spill. And when he ran out of steam and spit on the hood of my truck, I drove away. The next morning, I dropped the dashcam file off with the detective who'd been assigned to review the custody allegations. He watched the whole thing without saying a word. Then he looked up. Thank you, Mr. Walker. We'll take it from here. 2 hours later, Jason Connolly was in handcuffs outside a gas station. Disorderly conduct. Violation of protective orders. Child endangerment. Pending investigation. I didn't even show up to watch. Didn't need to. Some revenge is loud. Mine? It was surgical. It was raining the day I got the keys back. Claire didn't show up to hand them over herself, sent her lawyer instead. Probably for the best. She had nothing left to say that wouldn't make her look smaller than she already was. I stood in the foyer of my own house and realized how foreign it felt. Like walking into a museum version of a life I used to live. Everything was cleaner than it had ever been, almost staged. Like she tried to scrub out the memory of me with lavender and lemon polish. Eli trailed behind me, his footsteps slow. I could tell he didn't want to go upstairs. Trauma leaves echoes. Sometimes it's not what you hear, it's what your body remembers. Your room's getting a full reset, I told him. New paint. New furniture. You get to pick everything. He looked up at me. Even a bunk bed? You plan on having a roommate? No. Just thought they were cool. I smiled. Then you're getting the coolest bunk bed money can buy. He grinned, just a little. But it was real. I started unpacking while he watched cartoons. Most of my old stuff had vanished. No surprise. Photos gone. My army medals? Probably pawned. Clothes, books, guitar, all replaced with throw pillows and faux art. I was a ghost in my own life, but I'd come back to haunt it properly. Then I went into the master bedroom. The bed was new. Big, sleek. Cold. The kind of thing you buy to impress the neighbors, not to build a life in. I didn't care. I wasn't staying in that room anyway. I was reclaiming Eli's space first. Mine could wait. But I did check the closet. Don't ask me why. Maybe I was hoping to find something she left behind. Something careless. I found more than that. Tucked inside an old shoebox, beneath scarves and perfume wrappers and a dust-covered Pilates DVD, was a letter. No envelope. No date. Just folded paper, creased and worn at the edges. I almost didn't read it. But of course I did. Jason. I don't know how long I can keep up this act. He's not coming back. They said there was nothing left to find. But still, sometimes I hear the door creak and I wonder. I hate the way the kid looks at me, like I've stolen something from him. You keep saying I need to let go. But what if he does come back? What if he walks through that door one day and sees what we've done? You said he wouldn't. That I was safe. That dead men don't knock. But I keep dreaming about it. Him standing there, in uniform, just watching us. Not saying anything. Just watching. There was more. She talked about how Jason made her feel noticed. How she hated that I spent more time deployed than home. How she'd tried to be patient. But a woman has needs. You can fill in the rest. I folded the letter slowly. Slid it into my back pocket. I didn't need it for court. I already had full custody, a cleared name, and Jason in cuffs. No, this wasn't for evidence. This was for me. Proof that what I felt all along was real. That she knew what she did was wrong. That guilt tried to crawl out of her in the quiet moments. And that Jason? He knew exactly how to dig into her doubt and make it feel like loyalty. They were both pathetic. But only one of them had ever meant something to me. I left the letter on the bathroom counter. She'd come back for her things eventually. Let her find it. Let her remember that even after I was dead, she never felt free. Because I was never the one haunting this house. Her guilt was. That night, I slept in Eli's room. He insisted I take the top bunk. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain tap the window like it was trying to get in. And for the first time in years, I felt peace. Not because I'd won. Because I didn't lose. Not my son. Not my dignity. Not myself. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning, just after I dropped Eli off at school. He didn't look back when he walked through those double doors. Something in him had shifted. Like he was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, stability could be real. My phone buzzed as I pulled out of the parking lot. Unknown number. Government prefix. Walker, I answered, automatic as muscle memory. Sergeant Nathaniel Walker, the voice asked. Female. Precise. Speaking. This is Lieutenant Dana Rivas, DOD Casualty Affairs. I was informed of your reinstatement into active personnel status after a previous KIA designation. Yeah, bit of a clerical mix-up, I said. Dry as sand. She didn't laugh. We've reopened the investigation surrounding your benefits claim. Specifically, the payout issued to your spouse under Presumed Deceased Act Protocol 15A. According to our database, your wife Claire Walker was issued the death benefit. However, we've recently received a flag. I gripped the wheel tighter. What kind of flag? The funds were not solely deposited into Claire Walker's personal account. My stomach turned. Say that again. She paused. Roughly 40% of the total amount, $123,000, was diverted to a separate account, opened 2 weeks before the benefit was issued. The account holder name was Nathan C. Walker. What? I barked. That's my name. I know. That's why you're getting this call. I pulled the truck into an empty parking lot. Parked hard. The engine rattled under the tension in my arms. Who signed for that account? We're still tracing the ID used. It was opened in person at a local branch in your town. Whoever did it had a copy of your discharge paperwork and military ID. That's impossible. I agree. The line went quiet for a beat. Then, Sergeant, this doesn't look like sloppy fraud. This looks like collaboration. Someone knew you were listed as Kia and used it to funnel part of the payout somewhere else. And they used your identity to do it. My jaw locked. You think Claire was in on it? She authorized the disbursement split, claimed it was part of a joint investment with your estate executor. I didn't have an executor. Yes, you did, Rivas said. Who? She read the name slowly, as if testing the waters. Brendan Massey. I froze. Brendan Massey. We served together. Same unit. Rode the same convoy. Got hit in the same blast. He was in the Humvee behind mine. He made it out too. At least, that's what the record said. But I hadn't seen him since the explosion. I assumed he'd been transferred. I had no idea he was even back in the States. You're telling me he signed as my executor? I asked. Yes. And no one verified that I'd appointed him? That's where it gets complicated. She explained, quick, clipped. Brendan had filed paperwork just days after the explosion. Claimed I'd designated him next of kin for benefit handling in the event of incapacitation or death. He submitted copies of a will, a power of attorney, all of it forged. It had gone through. Clean. No questions asked. Meanwhile, I was crawling out of a ravine with a broken collarbone and a concussion halfway across the Syrian border. And while I was bleeding into sand, Brendan and Claire were signing documents in my name and cashing out. You said 40% went to that shadow account, I said. Yes. And the rest to Claire? Correct. Is Massey still in the country? A pause. No. He left the U.S. 4 months ago. Currently listed as a contracted civilian in the private security sector. Translation? Mercenary work. We think he's working under alias IDs for a European firm. Hard to track. I exhaled slow. Cold. Focused. I'm going to find him, I said. She didn't argue. I hope you do, Rivas replied. We'll keep digging. In the meantime, don't go public. Not yet. If he's gone dark, we may need him to believe his name hasn't come up. Understood. And then she said something that hit me harder than any IED ever could. Oh, and Sergeant? The will he forged, it had your signature on it. That night, I couldn't sleep. Eli was out cold in the next room, snoring soft and safe. Meanwhile, I sat in the kitchen, rereading every financial statement Claire ever touched. The timing. The transfers. It all lined up too perfectly. Claire wasn't just caught in Jason's orbit. She was working with Brendan. And all this time, I thought she was just weak. Turns out, she was smart too. Cunning, calculated, and cold. Jason was just the distraction. The real betrayal wore my name and cashed my death like a lottery ticket. And now? Now it's time to find Brendan Massey. There's always someone who knows. Brendan Massey wasn't the type to operate alone. Not back then. Not now. He liked partnerships, built off favors, secrets, and debts you never fully pay back. And I knew just the man who would have helped him disappear. Tobias Toby Gresham. Former Marine. Logistics man turned private fixer. Not quite dirty, not quite clean. He worked out of a garage that doubled as a security consulting firm in a part of town where police cruisers slowed down but never stopped. I hadn't seen Toby in 6 years. Not since that night in Mosul when he helped us sneak out 3 trapped medics using a gutted ambulance and half a bottle of whiskey as bribe bait. He owed me for that. And I was here to collect. I pulled up in front of the warehouse. Metal shutters, one busted camera, pit bull chained near the back door. Classic. I stepped inside. Toby. I barked, voice echoing off the concrete. A grumble came from behind a stack of server racks. Then came the man himself, beefy, bald, wrapped in a sweat-stained tank top and tattoos that hadn't aged well. Well, I'll be damned, he muttered. The ghost himself. You really are alive. Disappointed? He gave a dry chuckle. Depends. You here to kill someone or bury him? Neither. I dropped a photo on his desk. It was a surveillance still from 2022. Brendan. Backpack. Boarding a private plane. Toby's eyes narrowed. Where'd you get that? Department of Defense. They know he's alive. They know he forged documents in my name. And I know you helped him disappear. He looked away. Don't feed me that innocent look, Toby. You're a liar, not an idiot. Brendan needed someone to scrub records, fake IDs, and arrange flights without pinging the system. I leaned in. You're the only one I know who could have done it without leaving a footprint. He tapped a pen against his desk. You don't know what you're asking. I'm not asking, I said. I'm warning you. The man you helped vanish tried to erase me. Stole my identity. My pension. My son's future. So you tell me where he is, or I start making noise loud enough to bring the FBI to this shack. He didn't flinch, but his jaw tightened. I did the drop, he admitted after a long silence. Got him on a jet headed for Cyprus. But he didn't stay long. Where'd he go? Malta. Figures. Tiny country. Loose banking laws. Haven for people with stolen names and thick wallets. Toby sighed, scratching his chin. Look, I didn't know it was you he was screwing. He told me the guy was a Kia. No family, no next of kin. He was Kia. Only I woke up. Yeah, that's the part that screws everything up. He slid an old notebook across the table. Inside, written in Toby's chicken scratch handwriting, was a contact. Alec Novak, Slima, Malta, last seen January 2025. Who's Alec? Ex-spook. Serbian. Ghost for hire. If Brendan's working black market contracts in Europe, Alec's either laundering his money or guarding his back. I nodded. Appreciated. One more thing, he said, before I turned to leave. Brendan didn't just fake your death to Claire. I froze. He sold your profile to someone else. Another contractor. Identity recycling. Clean soldier, decorated record, no criminal flags. It's gold to guys who can't pass background checks. Brendan's been selling you. How many? I don't know. 2, maybe 3. But if you think this was about Claire and some widow check, you're not thinking big enough. I clenched my fists. My military history, my life, had been packaged, marketed, sold to strangers. I need a burner, a passport, and a clean route to Malta, I said. Toby exhaled. You sure about this? I looked him dead in the eye. I've never been more sure. That night, I sat on the back porch, Eli asleep inside. I watched the stars. Thought about all the ways this story could have ended. Me in a flag-draped box. Claire raising my son with a monster. Brendan sipping cocktails under a false name. But none of that happened. Because I came back. And now I was going to finish what they started on my terms. Not out of revenge. Out of principle. No one steals my life and gets away with it. Not Claire. Not Brendan. Not the system. Malta. Sun-washed buildings stacked like limestone secrets. Narrow streets coiled around the coastline like veins. Beautiful if you're just passing through. Dangerous if you stay too long and start asking questions. I checked into a quiet hotel under the name Grand S. Monroe. Passport courtesy of Toby. The man had a gift for forging identities you could use to walk through a NATO base undetected. I didn't bother unpacking. I wasn't here to rest. Alec Novak lived in a penthouse in Slima, overlooking the harbor. Top floor, private elevator, security cameras that didn't blink. The kind of place paid for in cash and favors, not taxes. I'd spent the past 3 days shadowing him. Alec was a shadow himself, never the same routine twice. One day he's at the boxing gym. The next he's at a Serbian cafe, drinking tea with men who'd seen more war than they'd ever admit. He didn't smile. Didn't laugh. Just watched. The kind of man who doesn't speak unless silence gets in the way of money. I waited until 4:12 p.m. on a Thursday, his only predictable moment. That's when Alec took his walk along the harbor. Always alone. Always with earbuds in. I intercepted him halfway. Mr. Novak, I said. He didn't pause. Keep walking, I told him. Or everyone in your world is going to know you once worked for a ghost. That got his attention. He stopped. Turned. Eyes pale. Unreadable. Marble set in flesh. You have 10 seconds, he said in a thick, deliberate accent. I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here because Brendan Massey paid you to make him disappear. But I'm not a cop. I'm the man he erased. Silence. Then, a small nod. Walk with me. We moved together, side by side, like two men out for air, but the tension between us could have sliced a wire. How did you find me? He asked. Friend of a friend. You're lucky I don't shoot friends of friends. You're lucky I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for Brendan. He exhaled. Slow. He's not in Malta anymore. Only stays 2 steps ahead. Never more. He's in Montenegro now. Koter. Figures. Another country with deep pockets and shallow extradition laws. Then give me the route. Name. Contact. Anything. You think I betray a client just because you scare better than most? He said. I smiled. No. I think you betray a client because of this. I slid a flash drive into his hand. What's this? Security footage of Brendan transferring 3 separate identities to Eastern European arms buyers. All of them under the name Alec Novak Security Clearance. He didn't just burn me. He used you to do it. Alec stopped walking. He stared at the drive like it had just whispered a death sentence. Lies, he said. Then plug it in. He didn't move. Didn't have to. The flicker in his expression told me he already believed me. Because that's what betrayal feels like. You recognize it before the proof. I want Brendan's location. I want the name he's using. And I want the bank accounts he's pulling from. You're not going to kill him? Alec asked. No, I said. I'm going to expose him. And then I'm going to take back everything he stole, plus interest. He hesitated, then nodded once. Room 514, Azure Club Hotel, Koter. Registered under Nicholas Vance. Travels with 1 guard. A drunk. Sloppy. Easy to distract. What's his routine? Nightclub across the square. Every Friday. Same girl. Same bottle. And his bank. 6 accounts. Offshore. But he moves the money every 30 days through a local crypto exchange. If you hit it right, you'll catch him holding it all. I nodded. Good. Alec turned to walk away. One more thing. I called after him. He stopped. Why'd you give him the tools to disappear? Alec didn't turn back. Because he paid me in your name, he said. And at the time, you were dead. Then he was gone. I returned to the hotel and stared out the window. My reflection looked thinner than I remembered. Meaner. Not broken, but carved. Brendan was in Koter. He thought I'd died in that ravine. Thought he'd buried me under signatures and stolen checks. But here I was. Breathing. Hunting. Ready. Koter. A fortress carved into a mountainside. Quiet. Ancient. And perfect for men who want to vanish without leaving smoke behind. I landed under a different name. My 4th identity since stepping off U.S. soil. This one had a red passport, courtesy of Alec's contacts. I paid extra to make it untraceable. I wasn't here for a vacation. I was here for Brendan Massey. Azure Club Hotel was sleek, modern, and shamelessly expensive. Room 514 was at the end of a long marble hallway, corner suite, 2 exits. Exactly what a man like Brendan would pick. High view, tight angles, easy to defend. I didn't go to his room first. I went to the crypto exchange. Cash in hand. I bought 1 hour of server access from a nervous Albanian kid with too many keys and not enough conscience. In that hour, I got exactly what I needed. Brendan had over $2.4 million moving through digital wallets in 6-month loops. Military pension money. Identity laundering. Even freelance mercenary gigs paid under my name. He was living off my skin, and it was time to shed it. 9:03 p.m. Friday. He'd already left for his regular haunt. The Lantern, a half-buried lounge carved into the cliffside. Tourists drank there. Brendan watched them, like he was still on recon. I waited in the back, by the bar. Put up. Drink untouched. Then I saw him. Same walk. Same posture. But softer now. Wealth softened him. Comfort gave him a gut. His beard was manicured. His eyes sunburned from someone else's sunlight. He took the same booth he always took. Corner table. Clear view of the exit. His bodyguard, a washed-up Ukrainian with shaky hands, parked on a stool near the door. I waited 15 minutes. Then I approached. He didn't recognize me at first. Taken, he said without looking up. Not anymore, I said. He glanced up lazily, the way arrogant men do. And then his face froze, like he was staring into the mirror and realizing the reflection wasn't his anymore. No, he said. You're alive. I slid into the booth across from him. No gun. No police. Just me and you, Brendan. Talk fast. He looked around. His hand twitched toward his jacket. Don't, I warned. Your guy's passed out in the bathroom. I laced his drink. Took him less than 10 minutes to fold. Brendan licked his lips. Sweating already. How, he whispered. Luck. Rage. And the fact that you're not half as clever as you think. He leaned back. Tried to compose himself. This doesn't have to be messy, Nate. Look, we can split the money. You want half. I laughed. Quiet, bitter. Half of my own death benefit? You think I flew across the world to split a check with the guy who sold me for spare parts? I didn't kill you, he said. No. You just capitalized on the world thinking I was dead. You forged a will. You partnered with my wife. You sold my identity to Mercs. You didn't kill me, Brendan. You erased me. Silence. Then he tried another tactic. I can help you, he said. I've still got access. We can both disappear. You and your kid. New passports. New lives. Wrong move. I leaned forward. You don't speak about my son. I'm just saying. No. You listen. You used me. Stole from me. Let my wife think she was safe, while you lined your pockets with my life. And now, I slid a flash drive across the table. He didn't touch it. That's everything. Your banking history. Transfer logs. IDs sold. 3 different war crimes committed under the name Nathan Walker. His face drained. That gets dropped to Interpol in 48 hours unless you do exactly what I say. He was shaking now. Mouth opening, then closing again. What do you want? He asked. Simple, I said. 1. Every cent you stole goes back. Not just to me, but to the people you scammed using my name. 2. You write a full confession signed, notarized. You name Claire. You name every buyer, every account, every forged signature. 3. You disappear. For real this time. You vanish so hard that even your mother forgets what you look like. Because if I ever hear your name again, if I ever see it in a file or hear it in a rumor, I will come back. He tried to speak. I didn't let him. This isn't revenge, Brendan. This is justice with a memory. He nodded, slowly. Then he wept. Pathetic. I stood, took the flash drive, and left him there, collapsed in the booth like a man realizing his tombstone had already been carved. By Monday, the money was wired back. Confession signed. Name submitted. Interpol got what they needed. Claire? She got a subpoena. And me? I got my name back. Coming home felt different. Not victorious. Not peaceful. Just clean. Like something had been scrubbed off my skin after months of dragging it through the filth. I had my name. My son. And Brendan Massey? He was as good as a ghost. No trace, no sound. Just the long silence that follows when the devil realizes he's lost the game. But Claire? She was still breathing. Still here. The subpoena was public record now. Mailbox legal and hand-delivered. Fraud. Conspiracy. Identity theft. Misuse of military benefits. She hadn't been arrested, yet. But the wheels had begun turning, and for once, I wasn't the one left behind in the smoke. I knew she'd come to me eventually. And she did. She showed up at my house on a Thursday. Rain again. Always the rain. She didn't knock. She stood on the porch like she didn't know whether she wanted forgiveness or just a place to hide. I opened the door. She looked like hell. No makeup. Hoodie. Hair pulled back like she couldn't bring herself to try anymore. I just want to talk, she said. I stared at her. No. You want to justify. There's a difference. She flinched. I didn't know what Brendan was doing. He told me. Don't. I stepped outside, pulled the door shut behind me so Eli didn't have to hear a word of it. You signed your name on the payout. You split the money. You slept in the bed Brendan bought with my death letter. Don't stand here and pretend you were just along for the ride. You were in the front seat. I thought you were gone. You want to be gone. Her lip trembled. But tears didn't come this time. They dried up, probably the same moment she realized the life she built on lies was collapsing from underneath. She looked down at the porch boards. They're going to prosecute me, aren't they? They're already preparing the case, I said. But here's the part that should really scare you. She looked up, startled. I'm not pressing charges. What? You heard me. I'm letting the state handle it. Because unlike you, I don't need revenge. I've got truth. And truth doesn't need permission to burn. She stared at me like I was the villain now. Like I was cruel for not throwing her a rope. But I didn't feel cruel. I felt clean. And that's what terrified her. She stepped closer. I lost everything, she whispered. No, I said. You traded everything. For money. For comfort. For the fantasy of not having to love someone who came back from war broken. She tried to speak. I kept going. You want to know the worst part? I asked. It's not what you did to me. It's what you did to Eli. You let a man hit our son. You told him I was dead. You erased me so thoroughly that he thought his nightmares were his fault. She broke then. Collapsed on the porch. Face in her hands. The kind of crying that sounds more like choking. But I didn't kneel. I didn't comfort her. Because grief doesn't belong to the guilty until they've earned it. You're not a mother, I said. You're a cautionary tale. She didn't reply. Didn't have to. She left eventually. Dragged herself to her car, soaking wet, the weight of consequences catching up like thunder. I watched her drive away without a single feeling in my chest. Not hate. Not anger. Just stillness. And in that stillness, something new took root. Not forgiveness. Freedom. That night, Eli and I sat on the couch watching some cartoon about space dogs and laser cookies. He laughed until he hiccuped. He looked at me, eyes wide. Is Mom going to jail? I paused. Didn't lie. She might. But that's not your fault. He nodded slowly. I don't want to live with her again. You won't. He scooted closer, laid his head on my shoulder. And just like that, the house felt full again. Not of memories, but of tomorrow. It started with a knock. Not the loud kind that says trouble. The polite kind. Almost professional. I opened the door to find a man in a black windbreaker, government badge hanging just low enough to see, but high enough to say don't mess around. Mr. Nathan Walker? He asked. Depends who's asking. Agent Colton Marks. Treasury Department. Fraud Division. Of all the agencies I expected on my porch, the Treasury wasn't one of them. You mind if I come in? He asked. I didn't move. You here to tell me my death check bounced? He smirked. I'm here to tell you it multiplied. That got my attention. I let him in. Eli was at school. The house was quiet. Too quiet for what this man was about to say. Marks laid a thin laptop case on the table. Opened it. Pulled out documents. Wire transfers. Name chains. Account summaries. He pointed to the top of one. Walker Holdings, LLC. I blinked. What the hell is that? He tapped again. It's a corporation. Opened in Arizona. 3 months after you were declared Kia. Registered under your name and Claire's. It's been collecting dividends from 3 separate companies, all tied to federal defense contracts. I stared at him. That's not possible. No, it's genius. If you're a fraud, or a ghost, or both. I felt the pit in my stomach start to churn. This company has been siphoning small percentages off contracts that Brendan Massey funneled through shell firms, Marks continued. Defense parts. Tactical logistics. Procurement bids. Pennies on the dollar, but the volume? You'd be surprised. He slid a number across the table. $847,000. Where's that money now? Split across 4 different offshore accounts. But here's the twist. He flipped the next page. Claire wasn't just signing papers. She was running it. I leaned back in my chair, eyes narrowing. Don't misunderstand me, Mark said. We're going after Massey. And we're already building a case against Claire. But what we need from you is your testimony. Your identity was used as a business front. You were the company's ghost CEO. I stared at the documents. All the lies. All the manipulation. This wasn't just about a benefit check anymore. This was organized theft. She hadn't just mourned me wrong. She'd monetized me. And somewhere in a bank server, my name was still generating wealth I never saw. I looked at Marks. You're going to need me as a witness? Yes. Then you're going to need to protect my son. Full immunity. New IDs. No risks. He nodded. Done. The trial was going to be big. Federal. Public. Claire's name was already under seal, but when the case blew open, it would drag her into the national spotlight. And Brendan? He was about to become the poster boy for military identity laundering. But I didn't care about the headlines. I cared about one thing. Control. For the first time in years, I wasn't reacting. I was leading. No more waiting for someone to knock. No more letters. No more lies. Just a father. A soldier. A man finally at peace with war, because he won it. Later that night, I sat outside on the porch. The air was still. Clouds like bruises over the moon. And in my hand? The last piece of paper from the case file. A printed transaction log. Claire had made personal withdrawals over 6 months from the company she built on my ashes. And beside every withdrawal, she'd labeled them with codes. Groceries. Utilities. And once. Spa. I laughed. Loud. Bitter. The kind of laugh that ends with a dry throat and clenched fists. Even her self-care was stolen. Even her peace was borrowed. But mine? Mine was earned. It came in a manila envelope. No return address. No stamp. Hand-delivered. Inside was a letter. Not typed. Handwritten. By Claire. Nathan. I know you hate me. I know I deserve that. But I need you to listen, just this once. They're going to take everything. The house. The accounts. Even my parents are being questioned because I used their address for paperwork Brendan filed. I didn't know what he was doing, not really. And I didn't know what it would cost when I signed my name. But now I'm begging you. Not for me. For Eli. He still needs a mother. If you testify, I'll lose custody permanently. They'll charge me federally. I'll be gone for years. I'm asking you, please, don't testify. Let the state handle it without your statement. Let me stay in Eli's life. Let me be something. Please. Claire. I stared at the paper for a long time. And then I laughed. Not the bitter kind. The clean kind. The kind that tastes like justice. Because after all this, after cashing my death, feeding my son to a monster, laundering money with a war criminal, she still believed Eli needed her. She still thought she was relevant. She thought motherhood was something you could plead for. Something you could opt into after you'd sold it for wiring instructions and forged signatures. What she didn't understand, what she never understood, was that motherhood isn't biology. It's presence. It's protection. It's the moment a 10-year-old boy cries in a motel room because no one else ever told him he didn't deserve to be hit. It's showing up, every day, every storm, every silent dinner when words are too hard. She didn't show up. She vanished. And now? She wanted a do-over. I folded the letter neatly, placed it in the same box where I kept Brendan's confession, where I kept the photos of Eli's bruises, the files, the forged will. Because this letter? It was her last gasp, not her redemption. And redemption isn't granted by the man you tried to bury. It's earned, inch by inch, word by word. And Claire? She was fresh out of inches. I didn't reply to the letter, didn't send a message, didn't make a call. Instead, I met with Agent Marks. I signed my official witness statement. I thought you might hesitate, he said. I don't hesitate for people who hesitate when my son was bleeding, I replied. He nodded. Respect. That night, I told Eli. We were sitting on the porch again, bunk bed fully built, school project drying on the kitchen table. Your mom might be gone for a while, I said. He was quiet. Then, jail? Yeah. He didn't cry. He didn't ask if she'd come back. He just nodded and said, okay. Then he added something that punched me straight in the chest. She can go. I already have a parent. No courtroom. No jury. Just that. The final verdict.